Let's go to the wide receivers, pass catchers in general on a bye week here, guys. T-Mac, Tirico, and McMillan, who's been a little touchdown dependent lately. Wan'Dale Robinson, who's kind of the opposite. You just hope for short volume with Wan'Dale, but he's been great this year. Stephon Diggs, Jawan Jennings, Kayshon Boutte, Ricky Pearsall trying to work his way back into the action and fantasy relevance. Been quiet since his return. George Kittle, not quiet since his return. He's been one of the top tight ends in fantasy. Hunter Henry, who's always on the fringe of being a tight end 1 week in and week out, and then to a lesser extent, but because Jackson Dart is back, Theo Johnson. So let's jump into who's available, guys, and we start with Jaden Higgins, 65%. They got a huge matchup on Sunday Night Football against the Chiefs. You guys will be in Kansas City for that matchup. But Jaden Higgins, 5 targets, 5 catches, 65 receiving yards. Another guy that it feels like Jay is now establishing a floor, because at least Stroud's looking his way, Davis Mills looked his way, and you always have the upside of scoring a touchdown because of his red zone presence.
Yeah, and it makes sense that, young rookie receivers, they get better as the season goes on, as they get more acclimated to the offense. Stroud, obviously a huge upgrade on Davis Mills. So we look at his past 4 games where he's had at least 4 receptions and 5 targets. In all those games, he scored 2 touchdowns in the past month as well. And to me, the thing that's interesting here, Connor, is that I think this is a favorable matchup against the Kansas City pass defense that I don't really understand why, but just hasn't been that effective unless they're playing a quarterback with a broken leg. Outside of that, teams have been able to move the ball. It just feels like the pass rush isn't quite what it was. Chris Jones has gotten a little bit worse. There's Carl Aftis, so there's not much else. I think the corners are fine for the most part, but there just seems to be no pressure.
All right, it's how long can they cover out there when, once again, the pass rush isn't consistent. Chris Jones has seemingly, and this just happens with age, he's gone from a great borderline elite player to now he's a good player.
Yeah.
And I don't think the Kansas City front can afford that, Lawrence, if they want to go out there and consistently be a good team.
It'd be nice if some of their younger pass rushers stepped up there. But look, if they don't get no pass rush, Jaden Higgins, wide receiver 23 since week 10, that is solid, especially for an offense that hasn't been lighting it up all year. They've been without their starting quarterback. They just got him back. Jaden Higgins taken in the second round, and he's pretty much doing now what they drafted him to do, come in, be that number 2 guy. And like we just talked about, if there's no pass rush, I don't see how this is a tough matchup for the Houston Texans.
Yep, they're only 3-point dogs in Kansas City, a Texans team that was looking like its season was done. At 0-3 they started, and then for Stroud to go down. But right now, I mean, they're playing as well as anyone.
They've got experience going out there. Just a couple years ago in the playoffs, they was out there in Kansas City, so it's not going to be no shock to them to, try to get it going. C.J. Stroud, I think the arrow pointing up for him, too.
You can argue, besides New England, and even Denver, like those 2 teams find ways to win, but Houston's arguably the hottest team in the AFC right now, or at least the team that you wouldn't expect this, but I don't think anybody wants to play. Like, they could just single-handedly win on the back of their defense, and now if Stroud continues to get settled back in, they're almost a complete team.
If the offense was playing like below average the first half of the year,
line was really bad.
If they just like solid with that defense, we talking about something. Just think, last year we talked about like C.J. Stroud, like sophomore slump. This year happened. But he could possibly be in the playoffs for 3 straight years. So that's pretty good.
He's won a playoff game each of his first 2 seasons.
Yes.
He's won playoff games on the road as well. Question from Brandon, Higgins or Watson for this weekend? I would lean Christian Watson just because, 1, more faith in his role in the offense. And then 2, I think probably more touchdown equity. And I think as well, not terrified of the Bears secondary, even though they are getting players back.
And this is up in the air, but it doesn't seem like Jaden Reed's a lock to be back this week, which would just be another mouth to feed in the Green Bay offense.
A.J. Brown had his best game of the season against these Bears in a losing effort. 2 touchdowns, 132, 10 catches. I don't think Christian Watson's the type to go out and get the 10 catches, but he could get you 132 on a lot less catches. So definitely Christian Watson.
The other thing, too, is like Jordan Love, he goes on these heaters. Like, he's extremely up and down. The back end of 2023, I think, his like final 10 games, he's like 21 touchdowns and 1 pick, something like that. He had a really good stretch from week 11 to week 17 last year. And now he seems to be in the zone again, 3 very good games in a row, even though statistically it didn't show up against the Vikings. He played well. And now, at home against the Bears, you take a step back, and Christian Watson is the #1 receiving option for the guy who right now is third favorite to win MVP in Jordan Love.
We go from Jaden Higgins, guys, who's established a great floor in the Texans offense, to Adonai Mitchell, which is more of the ceiling play all of a sudden in the New York Jets offense. He's 97% available, so there will be some bidding wars out there for Adonai Mitchell coming off a week where he had over 24 fantasy points, 12 targets, over 100 yards. He catches the touchdown. He finishes the week as a top 5 wide receiver in fantasy. We got to hear from Aaron Glenn this week on their thoughts trading for Mitchell and why he just wasn't a throw-in to that Sauce Gardner deal.
He's here for a reason. And, sometimes when these things happen, these trades happen, sometimes, people think that he's a throw-in, but he was never a throw-in. He was a guy that we wanted. And, listen, we watched him coming out of college. He's actually from my hometown, and he's a true X. The body type is a true X. He has good speed. He can win one-on-one. So, I just look forward to seeing him progress as the season goes and, for him coming back next year and being a huge part of what we're doing.
Okay, so Connor, Adonai Mitchell has a 30% target share since joining the Jets. He just had 12 targets in the NFL game, goes 8 for 102 and the touchdown. How real do you think this is, and what's the outlook going forward?
Well, there's no sign of return for Garrett Wilson, which gives you confidence that the volume is real. They're still throwing, and John Mechie had a couple drops in this game, but it's Adonai Mitchell. I think what was promising here, Jay, is that with Adonai Mitchell, we know he can win deep. He's big. He's got speed. You're going to see corners respect that. Now he was eating them up in the intermediate area of the field, the short area of the field, and he was catching the ball, which kind of was one of his problems coming in when he came over to the Jets, especially from Justin Fields. Tyrod Taylor is using him as the primary read constantly in this game. So, Lawrence, I think, are you going to get 8 catches over 100 yards and a touchdown every week? You're probably not. But the Jets are in plenty of throw scripts. Tyrod Taylor is completely competent at getting his #1 wide receiver the ball. He does this with Garrett Wilson when Wilson plays. And Mitchell is a guy that capitalizing on a new opportunity.
Yeah, and we talked earlier about the Giants kind of kicking the can down the road into next season. Well, what have the Jets been looking for on offense ever since Garrett Wilson got there? A #2 receiver.
Right.
So if Adonai Mitchell can show he could be the #1 now while Garrett Wilson is out, well, then that's the small risk you took in bringing in Adonai Mitchell. And I believe Aaron Glenn when he says he wasn't a throwaway, you're talking about the intermediate and the short game. That's actually something I thought he could do out of college, but it just didn't work out with the Colts. Got in a receiving room where the talent was too even. Then he had the stuff off the field that the coaches got tired of him. Great. I think it was not a great move, but a good move for both sides.
Right.
So I think Adonai Mitchell will continue to be that top receiver for the remainder of the season. Like you said, Tyrod Taylor is getting the ball to him.
Yeah, and the thing is, too, is you take a step back and, why is he not on the Colts? Well, because he's not as good as Josh Downs or Alec Pierce, basically, on the outside. And also the fact that, the other reason he's not on the team is because he fumbled away a 50-yard touchdown, right? That he actually did catch against the Rams before, obviously, the mental mistake of fumbling it out of the end zone. But, he's super talented. He was a high draft pick. And if he's going to get the targets, and Tyrod also, I think there's the perception, mainly because maybe the Buffalo time with Tyrod, that he's a game manager. Tyrod's not a game manager. Tyrod chucks it deep. He will air it out, which is perfect for Adonai Mitchell.
Yeah, you talked about him not being better than those Colts receivers. He's not today, but it wouldn't be shocking if he was in the next 2 to 3 years.
Raise the Flags chiming in here. Is Connor excited to be talking about A.D. Mitchell instead of Alan Lazard on his Jets podcast now? Yes, it's a nice change.
I bet you are.
It's a good change.
Yeah, at least he's young. Yeah, that's what it is. It's hope.
Things looking up for the Jets because, Aaron Rodgers was looking a lot better a month ago.
Damn it, everybody was like, trade Breece Hall to the Jets. No, keep him.
Yeah.
Let's see what happens.
Winners of 3 of the last 5, guys. Speaking of hot teams in football.
Yeah.
Hey.
Oh, man. All right, the top wide receiver targets. Let's take a look at some deeper league ones after Higgins and Adonai Mitchell. Jaden Reed, who we mentioned previously, he's working his way back. Kind of a sleeper on the waivers because he has that little IR spot next to his name. But I've stashed him in a couple of leagues, 62% available. There are going to be weeks assuming he gets back soon, that he'll be the #1 target in Green Bay's offense. Dontavian Wicks, though, kind of picking up the slack without him. He's 99% available. Devon Vele getting much more work now. He's out there in every league. Luther Burden, obviously with the Bears offense, you kind of got to pick your spots. Pat Bryant getting more usage with the Broncos. And then another rookie wide receiver in Isaac Tesla, who's got the Cowboys. If Amon-Ra St. Brown doesn't play, Lawrence, I mean, you could be looking at a comfortable place for Tesla in the slot where he played for Arkansas.
I would not be mad at him, especially putting him in on those leagues where you got like 2 or 3 flex spots.
Right.
He could be that guy if you directly have Amon-Ra St. Brown. Now, clearly you saw that once he went out, it was like we got to see why Jameson Williams was a first-round draft pick. But Tesla, he gets in there. We know he could play all around the formation, and that's the versatility that Dan Campbell likes. So definitely a long shot flex play. Keep an eye on Amon-Ra St. Brown's status.
Yeah. Connor, on Jaden Reed, who's always been one of the most fascinating receivers in the league, to me, the start of last year in the first month, he had 2 different games of having 138-plus receiving yards, and he did it against the Eagles and the Vikings, who are arguably 2 of the 4 best defenses in the league last year. Whenever I watch him, like, he's always reminded me of Deebo Samuel, like a younger Deebo Samuel, but it just doesn't, it's never really clicked over any sustained period.
Right. I love that you bring that up, Jay, because what I love about him is when you watch the Green Bay offense, it's a lot of like, okay, downhill run game, shots down the field. Yep. And that's been the story this year without Jaden Reed. But with Jaden Reed, he gives you a little bit more of the scheme stuff. Even if you just throw him a ball on a drag route and let him run, you get him going in the screen game, he can win down the field. I think that's more of a product of the Green Bay offense. They do run really hot and cold with Jordan Love and LaFleur. But in terms of upside, I guess Christian Watson has more because he catches so many deep balls. But Reed is the guy that you could actually see, Lawrence, they go into weeks with him with game plans tailored towards his ability with the ball in his hands.
Well, yeah, that's because I think the whole offense changes when he's in there. To your point about Deebo, I will say this. They're not going to run Jaden Reed in between no tackles. That's what they won't do with him, but they will give him that jet sweep. They will get him the ball at the line of scrimmage, and I think that dimension of the offense is kind of missing, which is why we see these inconsistencies with the Packers offense. And you brought up Jaden Reed last year. He was a top 5 receiver in fantasy for the first, 5-6 weeks of the season. So we know that's in there for him, but it's like when he gets in, when he comes back, how long is it going to take? What's the usage going to be like? Because we just mentioned Dontavian Wicks had a big game. It's still, even though Christian Watson is having these games, it's still like, who's the top guy in the Green Bay wide receiver room?
He's such a strange player because he's like a slot receiver who's dependent on deep passes. Yeah. He's like the only guy in the league
and he could do that.
Of that ilk, and he can do that. And you know, a lot of his production last year in the first month was, you know, catching it was like a 70-yarder against the Eagles in the Brazil game where the corner slipped on the turf and he ran into the end zone. But still, he's got upside. The issue is that when they go 2 wide receiver sets, like, he's not in the field. Like, they've gone with other guys. It's, you know, when healthy, it's Watson and then Wicks or Dobbs on the outside. But, I mean, also, you throw Matthew Golden still into this mix.
It's crazy.
You have, like, legitimately 5 wide receivers.
How many people did we just talk about before you just mentioned that?
Yeah, I mean, that's
about Tucker Kraft being hurt this year.
Yeah.
Like, if Tucker Kraft was healthy.
That's who really was the guy.
He's the guy. Yeah, just got hurt.
You have 5 different guys who would all have a case to be the best, at least outside receiver on the Bills. Like, all of these guys, in terms of talent,
they would take Dontavian Wicks.
Yeah, over Keon Coleman. And
they take Christian Watson.
They might have one of them next year.
Yeah.
At this rate.
Yeah.
Hey, it's Matthew Berry from NBCSports.com and RotoWorld.com, and I want to thank you so much for watching whatever it is you just watched, or if nothing else, being too lazy to click out of the autoplay after this video started, after whatever it is you actually wanted to watch finished. But now that you're here, I'd like to take a moment here to ask you respectfully now, okay? I'm asking you respectfully to subscribe to the NFL on NBC YouTube channel. You'll get the latest Roto-World fantasy news headlines, all sorts of great shows, including my own Fantasy Football Happy Hour. So go subscribe now. Again, I'm asking respectfully.